What's up, everyone? Welcome to Star Wars Explained. Today's going to be a little bit of a different video, kind of a vlog. We didn't sit down and talk through our trip to San Francisco, so we're going to sit down and talk through it now, and then we can show footage from some of the fun stuff we got to do.
Yeah, we're not a vlogging channel, so with all of our excitement being in San Francisco for this fun little event, we just didn't think to actually talk to the camera about what we were doing.
Well, and there were also limitations on what we could film and where. Mm-hmm. So we don't have a bunch of footage for some stuff, so some of it we'll have to talk through. But
yeah. And also, we're trying to touch grass, and we kind of did that on Indoor.
We did do that. We went to Indoor. We flew out on Thursday a little bit early. The event that we were there for was on a Monday. So we went out Thursday pretty late, and then on Friday, we got to go to Skywalker Ranch, which was great. We were shown around by Phil Shostak and Kristen Baver.
Mm-hmm. That was such a cool experience, which we have one picture of because you're really not allowed to take pictures or video there.
Yeah, they were excellent tour guides and took us through the main house. You can only take a picture of the outsides of buildings because people do work there. And,
yes.
You know, if you are walking around with a camera and someone's trying to get work done, that's annoying. So
also, they could be working on something super secret.
Exactly.
So,
but inside we got to see a bunch of Emmys for the Clone Wars, and I think they had all of the MacGuffins from Raiders of the Lost Ark, or from Indiana Jones. So there was the fertility idol, the headpiece of the Staff of Ra, the Grail, the Sankara stones, the Crystal Skull. Everything was there. That was super cool.
Were they all screen used
I believe so, yeah.
I think they are, yeah. And there were several little original molds for things. There was a big Kaminoan head in there.
Little the stop motion models that they used for some of the stuff, like the fight at the Sarlacc pit. Mm-hmm. The Sarlacc pit was there. I mean, it was a maquette of what it was going to look like.
Yeah, the original Phil Tippett sculpted Jabba is in there.
So yeah, just lots of cool props and stuff. We saw the room where there's a bunch of Clone Wars behind the scenes stuff where all the writers are hanging out with George and they're walking through stories. So
I can find that footage.
Yes.
Or I'll make you find it.
Yeah, I can find that.
I'll put that in the vlog.
We saw the room where the High Republic authors all met up and broke down what they would be writing about. So yeah, just a lot of cool rooms that I recognized.
Mm-hmm. Place is huge. It's 3 levels. And so yeah, we explored the first level. I think George's office is on the second or
third
floor. So no one's really allowed to go up there for tours and stuff, but George was not there.
Sadly, know of.
That we know of.
He didn't come down. We kept screaming his name, and no one showed up, so I guess he wasn't there. There's also a library in the main house, which was really cool. Could have spent all day. First of all, it looked beautiful. It has this stained glass dome, and the lighting was just nice and soft and warm. But then the books are all there to help tell stories, and there's books on filmmaking and mythology and color and all kinds of books that I wish we could have just sat down and read some.
Yeah.
And also books on Star Wars, which is fun.
It's like if a librarian were to have a dream library, that's what it felt like. Just the vibes in there were immaculate.
Yeah. But then going around the rest of the property was really cool as well.
We walked from the main ranch house to the Skywalker Sound building. It's very picturesque there, and there are little ponds and the lake, and it just, you feel like you're in another country.
Yeah, it is very just secluded, and it was made to be a creative space where you can just unplug from the rest of the world.
It's far enough away to where you don't hear any cars. All you hear are the birds outside, and maybe someone is doing some yard work, but it was designed for that reason, so that there are no distractions.
In Skywalker Sound, we got to screen a couple things in the theater where they do all of their screenings for movies they're working on and make sure the sound is good. So the theater is set up to be just an incredible experience for sound and visuals, but I was really focusing on the sound. because we were at Skywalker Sound.
Yeah. Like I said about the library, and I said this before, imagine a theater designed by like the best of the best professional sound designers. That's what the theater was. And there were speakers like under every individual seat. It really was like an experience that hopefully hasn't spoiled us for every other theater going forward, but we just felt so lucky to be seeing something in that room.
The first thing they played was more about kind of like the importance of sound, and it was what they recorded on set for A New Hope. It was like the stormtroopers boarding the Tantive V4 and attacking, and you could hear George like yelling directions and stuff.
It's just the sound that was recorded on set while they were filming, and it's just a lot of like pops and bangs from the fake guns,
like the clattering of the plastic of the stormtrooper armor,
and George saying, "Look at the door, look at the door, look at the door."
And then they would cut that in with the actual final mix, and of course it feels totally different. Mm-hmm. Then they played like a demo reel of a bunch of different scenes from different movies. I remember
they were all ILM movies, right?
Yeah, and well, I mean, I don't know. I assume so, but like they were at least Skywalker Sound movies. I remember Tron Legacy was in there, and that was the first thing that I really noticed is it was part of the light cycle chase. And the main character is holding something that kind of turns into cubes, little pixels, and falls apart. And you could just hear every single one clattering on the floor. But when they got to Top Gun Maverick, I was like, this is incredible.
It really made us want to rewatch that one.
It was the scene like right after they do basically their Death Star trench run. And they're trying to escape, and anti-air missiles are going after them nonstop, and they're trying to deploy flares, and like it's so frantic. And I was like, this sounds so good. And also that movie's great.
Yeah. Not only the sound, I mean, the picture was incredible. Going back to the Star Wars stuff, the scenes of Star Wars that they showed like after the sound design had been added and everything, I was like, this looks like it was filmed recently. I had never seen A New Hope look that crisp.
It did look incredible.
And I was like, what devilry goes on here that this looks so good?
Industrial light and magic.
It is truly magical.
And then the last bit that they played for us in that theater was the Falcon chase on Jakku with Rey and Finn, which also sounded great.
From Force Awakens. Yeah, that was really, really fun to see. I'll say shout out to JT for showing us that, because I think it's kind of dealer's choice in there, and he's in charge of who sees what reels. He was like, you guys Star Wars fans? Like, you're here for Star Wars things? So we were like, yeah. And so he was like, let me show you more Star Wars stuff then. So he showed us that on purpose because we were there as Star Wars fans. So that was really, really cool.
Also, at the front of the theater, they had some of the Dwarty statues, Palpatine's statues in his office in the prequels, which I was like, well, that's just cool.
I clocked those right away, and I was oh, cool.
On Saturday, that's when we went to Endor and went to the Muir Woods National Monument, which I don't know that they filmed Endor there or not, or what scenes, but regardless, it was redwoods and it was beautiful.
They filmed it somewhere in those forests.
Yeah, in those redwood forests. Yeah. But this is at least the part that's accessible to the public.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool. There's very beautiful.
Several little trails in there that you can walk at different lengths.
And this is the day that we linked up with our friend Gustavo from Triad of the Force, who went hiking in all denim, which Molly was like, how much do you want to bet? Goose shows up in jeans and a leather jacket, and you were very close. Jeans and a jean jacket.
I mean, it was pretty hot in that area, but because of all the tree cover, it was cool enough though to where I don't think he was in too much pain.
No, it was just I just think it's hilarious you clocked him exactly. So yeah, that place was beautiful. Just massive trees. I really liked the hike. It wasn't a very long hike.
I mean, it just really reminds you how small you are in several different ways. Literal.
And yeah, just like how old these trees are.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
So that's how we managed to touch a little grass before we got into work mode.
That night we linked up with a friend. He was actually one of our groomsman in our wedding, and he moved out to San Francisco a long time ago. So we went and got dinner with him. He took us to Cancun Tacos, which were incredible. Shout out to them. If you live in San Francisco, or if you're going, they have amazing tacos.
Get the super tacos. They're huge, so be careful.
After that, we linked up with all the other podcasters that were coming out. So we met up with them at Cafe Zoetrope, which that was, I think, Brandon from Talking Bay 94 and Jason from Blast Points. I think that was their find, and they let everyone know. But that's where Francis Ford Coppola wrote The Godfather. And then I think he bought that cafe and put his office above it. And he still has a table there that's just roped off. Like, if Francis comes in, that's where he sits.
We didn't actually get to eat there because we were doing other stuff, and so we just met up.
Eating super tacos.
Yeah, we met up with them later. But if we go back, I would love to try the food there because they said it was great.
And then, we went around the corner and just grabbed some drinks with all of them. And you two were searching for the perfect martini, which you never did find.
Never did find.
Not that night.
I had been recommended at least 1 or 2 places that have great martinis. We just didn't have time to get to those places while they were open.
But we did have some great tiki drinks at Smuggler's Cove.
Oh, yeah.
That place was very cool. Delicious drinks. We were in a state leaving that place because then we were like, let's go see the Painted Ladies. Those are the Full House houses.
Yeah.
But then we were singing the Full House theme song, which I bet people who live in that area hear all the time and are just like, shut up, shut up, shut up.
You guys were singing that all weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was just stuck in our head. We were singing that, and then we somehow worked into Boy Meets World. Sunday was June 1st, so very first day of Pride, which was fun. We went and we got some breakfast. We stumbled into a drag brunch skating show, which was fun.
We were at the Ferry Building, I believe it's called, and it's it's a monument. It's got a lot of history, but it's also full of shops and stuff. And then they had a little outdoor market as well, kind of behind it. And while we were out there, they were setting up for drag queens on roller skates to do a little performance. So we got crepes, which were great, and we sat and we watched them skate around, and that was awesome.
That was fun. Our friend also got us a ride through a Waymo. We all rode in one of those self-driving cars, which is interesting, but
it was kind of scary because we kept seeing them drive around the city, and we were like, ugh, that must be so scary to ride in. And then Mark was like, you guys got to do it.
And I mean, he's in San Francisco. He does it all the time. So he used his Google Voice Assistant to put on Niamos. He was going to play Star Wars music for us, and Niamos came on. We were like, that's fun. That's going to be important later. So after that, we went around the corner, had a couple drinks with our friends, and we had to get another Waymo home. So Goose had not ridden in a Waymo, and he was staying in our hotel with us. So we were like, all right, let's put Goose in a Waymo. And then I was like, I'm going to put Niamos on because that would be fun. And I had the Google Assistant, and it just wouldn't pick up Niamos. So I was yelling, Niamos, trying to get this thing to listen to me. And then we kept trying other things like Niamos, Morlana Club Mix, Star Wars, Andor. And that became the meme of the weekend.
Yeah.
Just slowly yelling Niamos. Monday was the big day, the main event. That's where we went. And if you have been following the channel, we put out our interviews with Tony Gilroy and Alan Tudyk and Margit Pfeiffer. So that's what we did during the day on Monday.
Yeah, originally I think that whole day was going to start later at 4 p.m. And then while we were out there for the trip, we got an email saying it would start a little earlier. Anyways, it was an incredibly well-scheduled out day.
Well, and Alan Tudyk got at it kind of at the last minute.
Yeah.
And that's why we're like, oh, now we're going to go a little earlier.
Yeah, so that's why I think they broke us up into 2 groups, and they had us, going all over the place, and they fed us lunch, and they were giving out tours, and we did a lot in that one day, including all the interviews.
Yeah, in between interviews, we got to go to ILM, and we saw the mocap stage where someone was up on stilts and in the suit, and we could see what they were doing over on a screen and they were K2SO walking around a scene. Alan Tudyk, actually, that was when we first met him. He surprised us walking in.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got to meet him there, and he was just talking to the mocap artists and about the whole process of it all.
Mm-hmm. That was really cool.
We got to see basically a fancy break room, which very much undersells it. It's a place called the Hideout, where it's a hidden door that ILM people are able to use, like old screen used props that they don't have any use for anymore. So they're just making a very Star Wars-y break room.
Yeah, it's like a break room, but it also kind of reminds you of like a Star Wars escape room almost.
It's funny you mentioned the escape room, because they were talking about converting it into an escape room. And this is just a thing that people at ILM go to work on their free time.
Yeah.
Or like they'll take stuff home and make it and come in. And so they had like one of the screen used Millennium Falcon consoles, but like you can flip switches and it'll make noise. And like if you do it in the right order, the Cantina music will play.
Yeah, they were all these like registered like songs, and also the songs would match, the lighting would change according to the buttons and switches that you pressed in what order. So just think of the genius minds at ILM, and if they just want to have fun and make a fun little Star Wars clubhouse, that's what it was like. And they even had a big screen with a crawl written by Pablo Hidalgo, full of all this history about like this room.
The lore behind the hideout.
It tells you like what planet it's on, and it's like this rebel getaway hideout thing, and there's just an incredible amount of care and attention and work went into this, but it's all just for the love of Star Wars.
And they had stuff from Andor in there, like the bodega kind of stall where a bunch of snacks and stuff were in there. There was something from the hospital in season 2. So Babu Frick's work table was in there as a table.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like leaning on it and they were like, that's Babu Frick's. And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm disrespecting it now.
Babu Frick's going to walk out like, hey.
No touchy. At the end of the night, we got to go to a screening of the episode Who Are You? One of the best episodes of Andor, which was a heavy one, but it was fun to watch with like just a theater full of Lucasfilm people.
Yeah, employees, people who had worked on the show, or just people who were fans of it. Some people, I think, that hadn't even seen it.
Yeah, like some people just too busy to even watch it. But...
Yeah, and they were like, well, get ready for this episode.
Yeah. And then there was like a little Q&A with Kristen Baver and Tony and Alan and Margit, where the Lucasfilm employees got to ask questions, but it was just like an appreciation for all of their hard work.
Yeah.
I loved watching through the credits. Every screen there was a new like breakout of applause because like all the people in the credits were sitting in that room.
Yeah. Yeah, like as the screens and the credits would change, different groups of people, I mean the whole room would cheer and clap because like they know all those people or they are those people. So like it was just really cool to experience that. To
bring this a little full circle, like the Redwoods made me feel humble and like reminded me how small I was. That just reminded me of all the things that I take for granted when it comes to movies or streaming series or making any kind of story like that. So much work goes into every single detail, every sound, everything you see on screen. And I think people just tend to take it for granted as if it's just like writing and directing and acting and that's it. And it's like, not like so many people work so hard on all of these stories. And that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, the sheer number of names on any credits screen, you know, it made me want to watch the credits of everything I watch from now on, just to like really take in how many people worked on this.
Right. I like that during the Q&A, Tony called everyone maniacs in a good way, but just how hard everyone works, and that if you give them a task and you give them clear directions, like we need this Rhydonium machine, and then they'll come back with something that they then spend 45 minutes showing Tony everything it can do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, this is maniacal. It's going to be on screen for 2 minutes. But like you made this masterpiece. And he's like, I wish I could have done a whole episode on the Rhydonium machine.
Yeah, people really do just love what they do there. You kind of have to, right? But even like on the tour, they were telling us that even John Knoll still tinkers around and like makes stuff on his free time for them to use for current Star Wars projects. So it's really incredible stuff.
Yeah, just Lucasfilm is a building full of maniacs.
Yeah.
In a good way. And
it was great to experience that.
So I think that gets us to the end of the trip. We flew out the next day back to Atlanta, but we did go out that night for a little while, and I did manage to put Niamos on. It wasn't the extended club mix, but I found a version of Niamos on the like little tunes jukebox, the digital jukebox thing. Yeah,
and
that's true. We did go out one last time.
I put a bunch of Star Wars songs on Goose's dime, even.
A couple Star Wars songs, and then it was all Motion City soundtrack for me and Goose. But yeah, we had a great time that last night also. The hardest part is like saying goodbye to all of the other podcasters and friends and the people at Lucasfilm that you only get to interact with online, but then like you don't want to say goodbye. So we had one last night out and then headed home the next day.
The second hardest thing was packing to go home, because we did buy some stuff while we were there. There were several gift shops between like the Skywalker Ranch gift shop and the Lucasfilm store, like the employee store. So
and bought a lot of presents for friends too.
Yeah.
So,
and we I didn't have a lot of room in my bag to begin with, but we made it work.
Yeah, we made it home, and that's all that matters. But yeah, that was the trip. So thank you again, of course, to Lucasfilm for inviting us to be a part of this. It was an honor to talk to Tony and Alan and Margit and walk through the halls. And
yeah, mostly you, but sometimes we'll do these like digital roundtable interviews, and they're great, but they're just on Zoom. So like getting to do an in-person roundtable interview with some of those people, where it's just like,
it's surreal. It's
very surreal. And it feels a lot more genuine when you're able to sit next to someone and just like chit chat with them.
Yeah, and actually have a conversation, getting them to laugh or asking them a question that surprises them, and they're like, "Oh, like that." I have to think for a second. Like that feels great. Mm-hmm. But that's it for today. So if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky,
and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.